Alright, so quick introductions of the panelists here. We might go a bit off beat because people who know me, we always believe in going with different templates or breaking the template. So, in fact, I was proposing a different format here, but because of the time constraint, we changed our plan and we wanted to go in a regular format, but a more interesting conversations. So I am Srikanth Talluri. As I mentioned, we work on curriculum. We call 6D works as a curriculum processing unit, like a food processing unit, and because it's a large-scale global issue, the global problem, talent, and that's where we pitched in 4 or 5 years back, and we started working with an experimental vehicle called CII, School of Innovation Leadership, which now translated to 6D Varsity. We are working on initiatives called Future Scientists Forum, Future Techies, pre-university problem solving, where kids from 9-10 years get involved in problem solving, but using ICT and bio kind of building blocks for their solutions. So a lot of experimentation, and which led us to CII, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to be part of CII, getting a lot of support from the leadership of CII, Sanjeev Garu, Cypress Garu, and all. So, and I would like to introduce our panelists here. Just begin with Mr. Praviti Kumar Garu, Lieutenant Colonel Praviti Kumar Garu. He's been associated with the government and into the HRBP functions for more than 2.5 decades, and his vast experience is something that we are going to hear out today with respect to the policy making, with respect to how things can translate into reality. We were just having some offline conversations before this, and quick learnings just in that 5-10 minutes from him. And then I introduced Mr. Sujit Jagirdar, who is the CIO, the Chief Innovation Officer of T-Hub, one of the biggest innovation and startup and entrepreneurial hub in India and in the world. And over the last 2 years, I've seen the kind of work, and we are part of the T-Hub as well, so we pretty much experience it every day in, day out. All your relentless efforts that are bringing the big changes to the state of Telangana and of course contributing to India. And then I introduce Dr. Mamta Garu. She's been associated with DBS Tech more and into the HR as a director and executive director of HR functions of DBS Tech, and your vast experience, ma'am, starting with your PhD in HR functions to all the kind of efforts. And I also heard Ramesh Garu was mentioning about your efforts with respect to the social contributions as well. So I welcome all of you, for this session, and we want to quickly move to, our panel discussion, which is titled around the talent pipeline creation, and the skills around Telangana and of course India as a whole. First thing is Telangana is different. Hyderabad, Telangana's baseline when it comes to talent is much different when it compare it with the rest of the country. Of course, Bangalore is different, not debating, but the kind of mindset beyond the skill. So skill is associated with mindset, which translates to work culture. So the kind of mindset, the kind of entrepreneurial or the kind of learning mindset that the people, Telugu speaking as well as people who are moving to Hyderabad, similar to the Silicon Valley kind of a mindset. We take inspirations from the world, and if we see that being a youngster who is attending a school or a college, to somebody who's working in the industry, we take different efforts here. Starting with our University of Amirpet to to all the big institutions in this part of the world, and also the learning that happens in the corporate universities and the corporate institutions, a lot of institutions around, and on-the-job learning. So Telugu, Telangana, and of course the industry that had in Hyderabad, positioned in Hyderabad and now extending to the other parts of Telangana, we have a different baseline. So I think the generic skill gap or the talent gap that persists everywhere versus what we are discussing with respect to Telangana might have a different baseline here. So we might have to distinguish that, and I'll leave it open to our guests to start off with their perspective, and then maybe we can construct the conversation around rather than just having some discussion around the bullet points. So I'll start off with Lieutenant Colonel Pragati Kumar Garu, please.
Good morning and thank you for having me on the panel. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. So, couple of things. What Srikanth Garu said is right. Hyderabad is different. It has been different for a while. We have seen a lot of initiatives by the government or government-led initiatives, not from today, over the past 3 or 4 political regimes changes as well. In spite of that, one thing that has stayed constant is that there has been some effort by the ruling government to make some difference or to make Hyderabad a more attractive place for industry, and also in the scope of training and skilling. So you've seen the earlier days, it used to be Jawaharlal Nehru Kendras in the colleges, engineering colleges. A lot of good came from that. The first thing that kids learned is your curriculum is not going to get you a job. You need to go beyond the curriculum and by quite a bit. That was the significant achievement of that initiative. People started to understand that there are specific domains. You need to decide your domain, get your certifications, get your skills, and then line up for placements. So it served a purpose. Today we have TASK, also a government initiative, and TSAT. Now TSAT is running the knowledge channels, and TASK is about skilling. Thousands of students every year being put through this, and appreciable effort. Not wanting to sit here and bitch about the efforts that people have made. Every little bit contributes. So that's what it is. But here's also the reality. The reality is, when I sit on a round table with any group of heads of HR, every single one of them is having hundreds of openings in Hyderabad. Hundreds. If we could fill those hundreds, they'd get more hundreds. So it's not a question that we are lacking in employment. At the same time, one thing that has not changed in the last 20 years, in spite of all these laudable efforts, is that we still have lakhs of kids looking for jobs. The other thing that's not changed is that even today when I post a job, I'm getting 200 to 400 applicants for each job. This is crazy. So if we have to look at our state of affairs today and be completely honest with ourselves, the fact of the matter is that we've been more successful in bringing industry and jobs to Telangana than we have been in preparing the talent pool for those jobs. That is the reality of the data. So really appreciate the effort put in by the likes of Srikanth, his company, several others who are in the space of trying to get that to match what is required. It's a difficult task, and it's getting complicated by newer technologies emerging. It's getting complicated by the half-life of technology actually reducing. Right? What used to be people thinking that, okay, I've learned some skills, I got some certifications, I'm going to retire on this. Well, at least, if not retirement, 45, 50, they could hope to have a life in corporates. That's probably coming down to about 10, 12 years, realistically. Even for that, they'd have to be really good at it. So the expectation bar is being raised, the gap is not narrowing, and we still have a bit of a problem. So we are more successful in bringing jobs than in training people for those jobs. The second piece of it, and this is again a change that we have seen in the last 20 years in Hyderabad. We had an ecosystem here where you had the kids going to Ameerpet, Sanjay Reddy Nagar, learning certain real skills which they didn't learn in the colleges. Then you had the large outsourcing companies doing a lot of college hiring, investing a lot of money in training them to a certain standard, and then you had the GCCs coming and poaching the best of these fellows. So it was a kind of an ecosystem that existed for a while. That has changed quite a bit. The reason for that change, and particularly the change that accelerated post-COVID, is that the GCCs are now investing in building their own talent packages. So you do have a lot of corporate universities. The largest corporate university in India actually is in our town, Deloitte University. If folks are aware of this, using the kind of technologies to train people by the thousands in our city, using augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics, the kind of training that they're doing there is world leading. But that's in our town. The work that Srikanth and his team are doing is also part of the ecosystem of bringing the skills up. So I think we are getting there. The fact that CII put training and skilling right up the list is also a reflection of somebody in the ecosystem, all of us, realizing that the next 20 years, our success as an industry, city, ecosystem depends on us getting this piece of it right. That's my bit. Thank you.
Perfectly said, sir. So, to revisit on your points, so last 20 years of industry and the evolution and the skill or talent challenges and the emerging opportunities today to next 5 years, to next 10, 15 years, and again, the baseline shift with respect to the industry expectations versus what's the academia or, the talent supply chain in whatever format. The raw material coming from them, is it consumable, and how can we get there? So I want to extend this to you, ma'am. So because you've been more, your stint is more with the enterprise world, and last 20 years, as Technical Pratik Margar was mentioning, you have seen a different transformation with respect to the job functions, the job-based skill and responsibilities. Like mostly it started with SOP-based work. Eventually, now we have the GCCs as well as startups. I'll come to it later. So, who are focusing on creating something from scratch, from a random idea to translating things to reality. So today, the next 20 years, we see that kind of work taking the main stage. We're talking about product-based economy and here. So 20 years, rewind, and 20 years fast forward. Maybe you'll be the best person to comment on this evolution and what kind of challenges as well as opportunities and the steps that we can take to see this opportunity.
Morning, afternoon, everyone. I've spent about 28 years in my career, and of which about 20 years have been with GCCs. I've worked with a few companies, Bank of America, Convergence, Invesco, and so on, now with DBS technology. So when GCC started in India, especially specifically in Telangana, erstwhile combined state, when GCC started, definitely there was, the talent is cheaper there in India, so we should get there. Over a period of time, there's a maturity curve that the GCC scaled, and eventually at a stage where the ideal state is, when GCCs come to India because of the value that the Indian talent can provide, not the cost of the talent. I think we are getting there. Are we fully there? Not really. There is still a lot of push and pull for MNCs to set up in India because of the cost. But eventually, as they work with India, as they work with the talent, they realize that there's a lot more that they should look forward to. And that's been my example. That's been my experience as well. As an example, I'd probably quote DBS, my company. So DBS, most of you would know, is a Singapore-based company. It's called the Development Bank of Singapore. It started when 3 years after Singapore became an independent country, in 1965, and it was thrown out of Malaysia, had to start off as its own country. And then DBS became the infrastructure providing entity for the nation. And for the longest time, it was a brick and mortar bank, but it was only in 2010s that decided that it was going to be a digital bank. And it was a big leap to make, right? And in fact, I will have to tell Ramesh from the previous session. In fact, Mr. Piyush Gupta is the CEO, global CEO of a global bank. So we do have an Indian already there. But the point I'm trying to make is a very conservative bank wanted to be a digital bank, and that digitization efforts were also something that India took part in. The Hyderabad entity was part of, right? We had an ambition to be the best bank in the world. We were acknowledged as that bank over 4 years. Now we said we want to be a best bank for a better world. So over the years, our ambition has also changed. We wanted to make the world more sustainable. But what is the role of the GCC in India in getting to make DBS a global digitized bank? We have about, let's say, thousands of employees, 4,000 or so employees here. And quite a lot of them are working on digitizing the bank. We talked about SOP related work. Every GCC will have build and run, right? You have to run the company. So you need to have people who are actually doing SOP based work, run, etc. But the fact that we have a large number of teams who own platforms, who own products and build on that and scale that, I think is a big testimony to the DBS Bank's faith in the talent and the value that the GCC talent can bring to the organization. What is it in store 20 years hence to what you asked? Digitization is an imperative. Using AI/ML is an imperative for all GCCs. Unfortunately, when I look at the market reports on the skill gaps, while there are certain skill gaps which are closing, for example, a full stack skill gap is closing. More and more people are getting skilled on that. But AI/ML, cybersecurity is the skill gaps that are widening. I think we as the nation will have to focus on providing those skills because more and more companies will want to recruit and have the talent here working on those. So the sooner we can get to focus on those, we can help companies get to their vision of being a digitized.
So thank you, ma'am. So we heard how the evolution happened from SOP to non-SOP work that is more creative and original innovation, taking the main stage in DBS as well as that's the standard now with all the organizations. That's where the talent expectations will be totally different compared to last 20 years. And with AI, ML, of course, the digital fabric becoming the de facto innovation building blocks, right, for every company, irrespective of the vertical, pharma, life sciences, banking, education, where we are trying to come up with AI and ML, incorporate it into the learning experiences and all. So that has become a de facto thing in cybersecurity and of course data science. All these, the building blocks. These are something that you live with every day in and day out in the startup world. So now for the GCCs, which are like mostly the enterprises, established enterprises, their talent initiatives are different. They can accommodate or they can afford these with their internal universities or partnering with some, be it expensive, but still, it doesn't matter for them, they can afford this kind of a talent pipeline creation process, right? But how do you see this challenge with respect to the startups and where you witness hundreds of thousands of startups in tech hub every day. So,
first of all, good afternoon. Srikanth, thanks for having me here. Thanks to CII as well. So I thought you had asked a very interesting question to my colleague here, Mr. Chinta. So I thought I'll also pick that. You mentioned, how Hyderabad and Telangana is little different, the baseline, so just let me dwell a little more. I think he had a wonderful response, but I want to add. Hyderabad, Telangana, I'm sure all of us know that it is one of the top 2 or top 3 in terms of GDP per capita. Probably number 1 if I'm not wrong. And we are actually twice the national average. Right, recently there was some report suggesting that we have one of the highest number of rupee billionaires from this region, HNIs from the region, and we have got probably the maximum number of people who are in the US migrated, and now hopefully there is some amount of reverse brain drain also happening, right? So I think there is something in the DNA. Fundamentally, that is enabling this.
it's in the air.
It's in the air, right? So, and since you asked about startups, I'm sure most of you are aware that India has got close to 140,000 startups today. And we are the 3rd largest in the world in terms of the number, purely by the number. It's not just about the number. If you look at the valuations, right? All these startups value close to $450 billion. And I'm going to rattle out some numbers just to bring in the perspective. Now, out of that, there are about 120 unicorns, which are $1 billion, valuation companies. These 120 unicorns have close to $350 billion in terms of valuation. They have generated close to 25 lakh jobs. That is the impact of the startup ecosystem in our country. Now, we are close to $4 trillion in terms of economy. We are expected to move to, at least there is an aspiration to move to $10 trillion in the next 7-8 years. So, if we have to move from 4 to 10, one of the biggest contributors to that particular growth path is expected to come from startups. Now, and this is not what I'm saying, even the Prime Minister in many of his speeches, if you have seen, you would have heard that. And there is a little bit of a rush. We are talking to, as part of T-Hub, we not only engage with startups, we engage with corporates, we engage with a lot of government entities, state governments. At least I can tell you, half a dozen state governments are discussing with us for collaborations to create something like this in their own states. But I know, I think Jayesh Ranjan Garu and some of the previous panelists also mentioned about the importance of creating those hubs, right? Hubs in tier 2, tier 3. It's not only creation of hubs in tier 2, tier 3, it is also creating these hubs in the colleges and universities. Because what has helped, and this is what we are experiencing, if you seed this particular aspect early in students' career, they see this as an alternate path to their careers rather than having this as an afterthought. I don't know, I can't do anything, so hence I figure out I'll do something on my own. But it should be the other way around. Your first choice should be, can you do something on your own? You set product development, right? Creation. Today we are known world over as the services, so-called back office, right? But we still don't have many Googles, we still don't have, hardly any, right? Or the Microsofts. Slowly, I think those are taking birth. I can quote some examples, some of the startups that we have nurtured, and you are right. In the last 9 years, incidentally, we celebrated our 9th anniversary on 6th of December, just few days back. In the last 9 years, we had incubated, accelerated close to 2,500 startups, and these are across sectors. So thank you. And trust me, T-Hub is one of the world's largest innovation hub right in our backyard. Right, I mean, people come from all over the world to see, not just to experience, to engage. We are working with global corporates. In fact, we are working with DBS. I was just telling Mamta. Similarly, we are working with across sectors. But the point is, how does one leverage such ecosystems? Whether it is colleges, whether it is government, whether it is corporates. These are some of the programs that we have created over time to engage and support. In the process, help the startups also grow. I learned by this, some very unique startups that have come out of T-Hub, and today they have probably gone on to raise millions of dollars funding also. Skyroot and Dhruva, I'm sure you know, they were incubators here. But very recently, you may not know many of these names that I'm going to state, you may not have heard. There's a startup by the name Blue Semi or Blue Semi. They have created a device. I mean, the device is as big or as small as this. You just need to scan your thumbs for 40 seconds. It can actually detect and report 6 vital parameters of your body in 40 seconds, including your sugar or your glucose levels, HbA1c, SpO2, ECG, BP, all this in 40 seconds. And they are already carrying patents, and they are discussing with entry to the US and all of that. Now, it took them 3 to 4 years to get there, but we are slowly getting into that path of creating products and platforms their accuracy levels, I need to talk about this. Levels of accuracy of that data is close to 92%. Even Apple does this. Apple also measures some of these data. They are at 85%. And the reason for that is, Apple uses its watch to pick, some of the data, collect the data to analyze. This is not necessarily the thinnest part of the body. The form factor that they have created makes them assess, the blood flow, viscosity levels in a device and at the thumbs, near the thumbs, which is generally one of the thinnest parts of the body. So people have gone to that level, in creating those devices, but they are still very few and far between. There's much more opportunities that exist. I think it's just that, as I think Ramesh Kaza was mentioning about collaboration, right? Coming together. It has not happened just because T-Hub has contributed. They had to work with IIIT Hyderabad. They had to work with many professors. We had to help them with access to data. I think J. Chaudhary Garu was talking about it. How do you get access to data? A startup working in healthcare would not have access to data. No hospital will provide. So that's where the ecosystem has to come and help. That's what we kind of do, and hopefully as we move forward, the tribe should grow, and we should come out with some of the world-beating products. That's how I see it.